Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Leading the Conversation from NAMI, Northern Illinois. It is my pleasure to welcome our special guest speaker today, Lynn Vu. She is our uh, s- special guest who will be speaking on the topic of the LGBTQ community and mental health topics. Of course, leading the conversation comes to you periodically on Thursdays at noon from uh, www.naminorthernillinois.org, where we have a host of various support and educational offerings like this one. I don't want to take too much time with the introduction. This is Pride Month, so happy Pride, everybody. And I'll let Lynn introduce herself and tell you more about what she's up to these days. But I can't tell you, Lynn, how what a pleasure it is to have you as our guest today.
Thank you so much, Warren, for the warm introduction, and thank you all for hopping on this afternoon for the webinar. So my name is Lynn Vu. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am currently at Rock Valley College in two roles. I'm a cultural excellence and belonging specialist. That's my full-time gig, and my part-time job is I teach anthropology. I am also in the community board president of the Liam Foundation. Many of you may have heard of the Liam Foundation. Great resource for LGBTQ plus support. Now, actually, chat a little bit more about that later. But thank you for being here. Just a note, I am not a mental health specialist or a professional. However, I am someone who is a part of the community, someone who has um, worked hard to advocate for LGBTQ plus rights and the rights of all humans. And in my time at Rock Valley College, working with LGBTQ plus issues and in the community, and in doing some research, I wanted to share with you a few things. So here we go.
Lynn, before we get started there, I did want to make one more comment. During this webinar, the chat is disabled, but people can put their questions into the Q&A function that they'll find in Zoom. And I'll be monitoring the Q&A box and I'll forward the questions to Lynn at the end of the presentation. So
Awesome.
I think I've covered all the things that I have to. Um, thanks for letting me interrupt there.
Yeah, thanks, Warren. And feel free to like interrupt some more, like even though the questions are at the end, but if there's something that needs to be clarified for that slide, feel free to pop in too. I more than welcome that.
Okay, very good.
All right, so let's get started. So welcome. I know this is not in an interactive format, but this is a great time to just pause and reflect. We all have very, very busy days. And again, thank you for sparing an hour to be here today. But I want you to reflect and think what brought you here. Why are you hopping onto this webinar? People will have different reasons. Is it because you want to learn something new? Is it because you are an advocate in the community and you want to see what else is out there? Overall, wherever you are starting, thank you for being here, and there's always something new to learn. So just want you to think about what is one thing that you'd like to take away from today's webinar. All right. So, having said that, this is what we're set out to complete today. So, very foundational. This is a 1 hour webinar on a very big topic. So, do know that we're going to scratch the surface on a few things. One of them is mental health statistics for LGBTQ plus communities in the United States. The second is discuss best practices, foundational practices for supporting LGBTQ plus individuals. Again, this is not comprehensive. It's not meant to be, but it's meant to be a starting point to get the juices flowing, to get action out there. And lastly, the goal is to inform you about local and national resources for you to know, to hold in your back pocket, um, and use for yourself or use for others who are in need. So let's get started. Terms of statistics, to give us some context on LGBTQ plus folks in the United States. Overall, they comprise a small percentage of folks in the United States. Depending on which set of statistics you use, um, we comprise about 7 to 9% of the total population in the United States, but we're still talking about a few million people, right? So this is according to one of the sources that I will be quoting a few times in this presentation, the UCLA School of Law Williams Institute. There is approximately 13.9 million LGBTQ plus people. That's defined as folks who are 13 and over. And my apologies, there's going to be a lot of vocab here. I'll try to define as I go along, but LGBTQ plus, many of you might know, but just to clarify, it's an acronym for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and more people. So alphabet soup of different identities. And there's an even smaller percentage of transgender people, 13 plus, 2.8 million transgender people. It's, yes, a smaller percentage overall, but we're talking about a significant population of folks, okay? But this is where it gets interesting because for a such a small proportion of people in the United States, there's an overwhelming amount of legislation against this group of people. And I apologize in advance. I think my Zoom filter is doing its job, but if you hear whining in the background, that is my Jack Russell Chihuahua mix. She wants to be hugged. Not right now. We're doing a presentation, so I apologize. In any case, here is a screenshot from the ACLU website. This is actually from last year in 2025. They track the amount of anti-LGBTQ plus bills in the United States. So these are bills, not necessarily laws, bills that have been proposed. And last year, there were a total of 616 bills um, against LGBTQ plus rights. And you can see here in Illinois here, so the darker the color, the more bills are raised in that state. So in 2025, Illinois actually had 15 bills. And in 2026, those 15 bills that were not that had not become law, but in 2026, this year, they carried over and there were 8 more added, so a total of 23. But by the end of May, the legislative session adjournment, all 23 were adjourned, so they were no longer continuing. But the reason why I'm showing, so that's some context, but the reason why I'm showing this is there's a disproportionate amount of bills against this community's rights when the community is so small in number. So there's something to be said for that. So that is the legislative kind of background environment that's going on. And as someone in the LGBTQ plus community, you can imagine the effects of being told legally that you are not an equal human, right? It compounds. And it's shown here in some statistics here taken from the Trevor Project National Survey in 2024. In the survey, it revealed that 41% of LGBTQ plus young people seriously considered attempting suicide the year before, and 50%, half of them were transgender and non-binary youth. That is an alarming number. So basically, 1 in 2 transgender non-binary youth in 2023 considered suicide according to this survey. Add onto that additional intersectional minoritized identities. If you are ethnically minoritized, if you're a Black and a part of the community, but more specifically transgender or non-binary, which is a subsection within LGBTQ plus identities, you have a disproportionately higher rate of suicide. According to the survey, 58% of Black and trans non-binary young people considered suicide, and a quarter of them attempted suicide that year. So these are very alarming and sobering numbers of the state of mental health of, in this case, young people who are part of the community. So one might ask, there is a high need for mental health care, but what's going on the ground? The survey also showed that more than half of the youth who wanted mental health care did not get it. They were unable to access it for a number of reasons. One being cost, expenses, fear of being discriminated against, lack of providers who might understand where they're coming from. So there's a huge need for mental health care, but those resources are not getting to the people in need for different reasons. And also, compounding mental health issues, between 20 and 45% of homeless youth identify as LGBTQ plus. So that is a huge number of youth who are homeless. They identify as being part of the community, and there are reasons for that. If you are, and reasons are different, folks' reasons are different, but a trend, a pattern is that youth who come out to their families are disowned. They have nowhere else to go. They do not have agency, cars, transportation, a job, source of income, and so they end up homeless. And so there's a disproportionate amount that's impacting this community. And so overall, we're seeing that this is not something that's all of these mental health issues are not stemming from their identity per se, but from systemic social stigma towards that identity, right? It's the environment, the social environment that is um, impacting the mental health status. So you're talking about bullying, family rejection, housing instability, lack of affirming care, legal discrimination, all of these different messages from inside your house, outside of your house, saying that you are not an equal human to others, that will tear down your spirit and your mental health, right? So just to give, so those are national statistics, just to give more information on what's going on in our state and in our region. We have a few great things to be proud of. So compared to other states in the Midwest, Illinois has some of the strongest LGBTQ plus protections, and this in large part is stemming from the Illinois Human Rights Act that prohibits discrimination based on gender identity, sexual orientation, and that is something that is legally binding, right? So that's very important. Also, a huge thing that happened 5 years ago, 6 years ago, is that Illinois school curriculums, K to 12 school curriculums, are required to include LGBTQ plus history in the curriculum. And that's huge. That is writing folks who've been here since forever into the history and acknowledging them and recognizing that they are a part of the American fabric, right? That is a very positive and affirming policy. And specifically here in Northern Illinois, I would say in the past decade, there has been um, organizations that have been growing and affirming for the community. So organizations like the Liam Foundation, more recently Rockford Area Pride, and we have other nonprofits just outside of Rockford. We have I think it's Rockton Pride, Rockton Area Pride. I think and other groups are forming too in the past decade. And that visibility is so important for um, creating visibility, community connection, um, and sense of pride in the area. So there's a lot of great things going on in Illinois. Having said that, there's always room for improvement, right? Mental health challenges remain significant in the region. Here's some statistics. 12% of LGBTQ plus youth, according to the Trevor Project, attempted suicide in 2023. 41% experienced anxiety and depression. And again, if you are gender nonconforming, transgender, non-binary youth, you have an even higher rate of those mental health challenges. And where you live, your environment impacts your mental health state too. Rural communities often face additional barriers. So lack of support, lack of resources in the area. Um, so it's a very different perspective living in a rural community versus more urban community. What is out there for you and to help with mental health barriers. So a lot of successes and a lot of work to be done still. But overall, I know that many of these statistics, again, are very sobering, very heartbreaking. Um, but it doesn't need to be this way, right? Change is possible and needs to happen. There are of course, for structural issues require structural solutions, but everyday work by the common folks, grassroots up, is very important and critical to the cause too. So, according to the Trevor Project, LGBTQ plus young people who reported living in very accepting communities attempted suicide at less than half the rate than their counterparts living in unaccepting communities. So again, there's nothing inherent about having this identity that makes you more susceptible to mental health issues. It's more so the environment that supports or doesn't support you that makes the difference. The research also shows that having just one affirming adult can be a significant protective factor. Being recognized by one other person of seniority, of social power, right? Someone who can guide you can make literally a life or death difference. Okay? And structurally, your environment, especially because the Trevor Project studies youth, inclusive schools improve mental health outcomes. One can even venture to say inclusive workspaces, inclusive community spaces improve mental health outcomes as well. So change is possible. It is in our hands. And let's talk about how we can be a part of the solution. So steps for being part of the solution. Excellent. Um, so these, again, like I said, will be very foundational. Um, but you got to start somewhere and build from there. So again, this is not a comprehensive list, but some great rules of thumb to being a part of the solution. First, know the basic vocabulary, and I'll have a slide for each of these in a bit. Practice active allyship. Third, use gender inclusive language whenever possible. And fourth, know and share LGBTQ plus resources. All right, let's address the first one. Know your basic vocabulary. So, as we know from already the acronym LGBTQ plus, there's a lot of vocabulary that pertain to the community. You do not, and you will not be able to know all of them. I'm part of the community. I'm still learning every day. Language is very cultural, historical, and it's always changing. So you're not responsible for knowing everything, but I will say that you are responsible for knowing the basics, which I'll go over right now. So know the basic vocabulary. Here I have an image of some of you may be familiar, some of you may not, which is fine. This is the genderbread person that will help us talk about these basic terms and distinguish them. First, the term that we'll cover is sex, anatomical sex. So when the term sex is used, it refers to physical traits that one is born with or that one develops later. And these are things that we consider sex characteristics. It's also the sex that the medical doctor assigns to you at birth. Okay, so that's not something you have control over. Um, you are born with it, or the doctor, since you were born, assigned that sex to you. Okay. Now that's very different from gender. And I really want to impress that point. There is a lot of falsehood in conflating the two. Sex is not the same as gender identity. So here on the gender identity, you'll see that it points to the genderbread person's brain. Okay. So gender identity is how you, in your own head, experience and define your gender. Some terms that can be used to describe your gender is cisgender, transgender, or non-binary. So if you're cisgender, that means that you identify with the sex you were assigned at birth. So for instance, I'm cisgender. My sex assigned at birth was female. I identify as a woman, so that lines up. Now, for folks whose gender identity does not align with the sex that they're assigned at birth, they're called transgender, trans on the other side of, right? Or you can be non-binary, right? Neither neither man nor woman, right? And there's others as well, but those are some examples. And everyone, if you're human, you have a sex, you have a gender identity. These are not characteristics that are specific to LGBTQ plus folks. They are for everybody. Okay. A third part that is different as well, that many may not think about, is gender expression. So, if you see on the genderbread person, gender expression are the dotted lines that frame the exterior of the body. So, gender expression is how you present yourself, present your gender through your actions, your clothing, how you wear your hair, makeup, no makeup, your demeanor, your mannerisms. And these presentations are viewed based on social expectations. Um, so, for instance, gender identity, and one may identify as a woman, but I know a lot of women who don't wear don't wear or don't like wearing skirts or dresses, right? They prefer shorts or pants. And that's a way of expressing one's gender. Or you can also be a woman and wear dresses, right? Wear makeup. Or you can be a man who doesn't wear makeup or a man who does wear makeup. So here we have gender identity, um, does not necessarily equate to a specific type of gender expression. It's very unique to the individual. And those are two separate things. And the fourth vocabulary is attraction. That's a broader term for sexuality. Attraction is more broad and encompassing. Attraction is how you are drawn or not drawn to other people in different ways, including sexual, romantic ways. Um, so it's very important to know these four terms and definitions, very basic terms. But the reason why I bring it up is at times they're conflated. Folks think if you are born a certain sex, therefore you have a certain identity, therefore you have a certain attraction, right? So although worldwide, we do tend to see patterns of, for instance, folks who are born a certain sex, let's say, for instance, male, who identify as a man, who express themselves in a more masculine way and are attracted to women, right? That doesn't mean that that's the only way it should be, or that, in fact, that's how it is in reality, right? We are much more diverse and beautifully messy than that. Right? So know your basic vocabulary, know that there's nuances between them, and know that anatomical sex doesn't necessarily predetermine one's gender identity, and one's gender identity doesn't necessarily predetermine how you express yourself gender-wise and who you're attracted to. Okay, those things um, can follow a pattern, but not necessarily. Okay. So that's one big thing. Know your basic vocabulary. Second thing is practice active allyship. So, when I do allyship workshops at Rock Valley College, I emphasize that allyship is more of an action than an identity. Um, you yourself don't get to say that I am an ally, come to me, right? You have to show it through your actions, and those that you are being an ally to determine whether or not your actions um, or allyship actions or not, right? So an ally is someone who actively supports and advocates for members of marginalized or unrepresented groups or underrepresented groups. And this is this is true for the LGBTQ plus community, but you can be an ally to any type of marginalized community. So one way to know if you're an ally is to see if you're practicing ALLY. So ally also stands for, the first A stands for act. If you're an ally, you act. Excuse me, you confront and interrupt oppression when you see it, and when it's safe, you speak up. Okay. An ally listens. An ally listens and trusts marginalized people's lived experiences. Just because it was not your experience growing up or you personally do not know how it feels like doesn't mean that it rings true for someone else, right? Do not invalidate them. Listen and practice active listening. Another allyship action is learning, right? Educate yourself about power and privilege, your own and of others. This is where that curiosity comes in. Ask questions, be curious, and do your own research. Allies are always trying to understand what's going on around them and knowing how to better support folks that they are supporting. And lastly, allies yield. So they yield to the group that they are allying for. So allies are aware of the space they're occupying. Their goal isn't necessarily to be at the front line and to be the savior of the people. What I mean by that is an ally is one who supports, right? I watched this very engaging and cool video about allyship, and the author of the video, she said, it's pretty funny. She said that being an ally, it's like Destiny's Child. You are not Beyonce, you're not Kelly, you're Michelle, right? Sorry, Michelle. No, no hate towards you, especially from Rockford. But as an ally, you are the backup, right? You are letting the minoritized group be at the front of the work, but you're asking, what can I do to help? Right? So that's another way to help be a part of the solution. Practice active allyship behaviors. Next is to use gender inclusive language regularly. And I think this can be pretty tough because the English language and like niceties tend to be gendered. But there are ways around it that we are already doing, and we'll talk about how practice makes perfect. So, one rule of thumb on how to use gender inclusive language in your regular conversations is to assume that there is a mix of genders and pronouns in any space you enter. Um, it can be even a department meeting. It can be maybe you are giving a community talk and you don't know anyone there. Great. Assume that you do not know folks' genders and pronouns in the space and go from there. Okay. So some best practices here. Here's some tips. On the left-hand side of the table are some typical things that are gendered that we tend to say and not give much thought to. Now, to be fair, I'm not saying that these are bad things to say. By and large, folks don't even bat an eye on it. But the point of being aware of gender language is to make sure that, hey, I don't know who's in the room. I don't want to exclude, so I'm just going to broaden things up to cast a wide net, right? That's the whole point of it. So for instance, instead of saying, yes, ma'am, good morning, sir, right? Those are well-intentioned things. But if you're making the wrong assumptions and you're misgendering someone, that can cut deeply, right? And that person may not feel recognized or offended. Um, and even though that's not your intent, that is the impact. So we're going to try to avoid that whenever possible. So a solution to that is still say what you want to say, but remove the gender language. Good morning. Yes, please. Thank you. Those words aren't any less gracious or social. They still carry the same tone without the genderedness of it, right? So instead of saying also, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hi everyone, hey colleagues, hey students, what's up, folks, right? So those are not new words. No one will say, hey, why is she saying hi everyone instead of boys and girls, right? It's just very natural, something we're already doing. Just do more of it, right? Also, especially if there's a conversation where we're not sure, we've never met the person, we don't know the name of the person. Sometimes people say he or she or he slash she. That can be very clunky and awkward. Try instead they, or remember when that person said this, or that student, that instructor. that a client of mine, you're, if anything, it's more specific and professional sounding than saying he or she, right? Again, we're already doing this. Just be more intentional and doing it more regularly. Similarly, referring to specific people based on gendered assumptions. So if we see um, someone in the distance, we're like, yeah, that man wearing the red shirt, call him over. We can say instead, hey, that person wearing the red shirt, call them over, right? We're still conveying the same message. It's just more inclusive, right? We're not changing the definition, it's just a broader net that it's casting. And also, I recommend this in all settings, whether or not there's LGBT folks or not. It's just smoother. So instead of saying, "Oh, how's your wife? How's your husband? Do you have a boyfriend, girlfriend?" Which, are weird things to ask. It could be potentially awkward things to ask, but use the word partner, right? Um, so how's your partner? Did you and your partner go anywhere over the weekend? And this is very important and useful even for cisgender heterosexual couples too, because what if you're assuming, let's say that there's a heterosexual couple and you're like, oh, how's your husband doing? And she might say, that's my boyfriend, and it's awkward. So you can avoid the awkwardness altogether and say partner, because that person's their partner. It doesn't matter what their status is, official status is. It just means that they're partnered with them, right? So these are kind of rules of thumb on how to use gender inclusive language. And the goal here, like I said, we're all doing this to different degrees, but the goal here is to be more intentional about it and incorporate it into your everyday language. Okay? So that's another way of being a part of the solution. Last part is know and share your resources. I know that NAMI Northern Illinois has a host of um, resources on their website, so do check it out. But I'm going to whittle out three main ones, three national resources and three local resources to the Northern Illinois area. So some national resources are here. You saw that I sourced the Trevor Project. They are an amazing nonprofit organization. It is the leading suicide prevention crisis intervention for LGBTQ plus young people. They have lifelines, warm lines, hotlines, but they also have national surveys from which I drew data for this presentation, and other educational resources. And it's mainly targeted towards LGBTQ plus youth. We also have nationally the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Um, Back when it was initially launched, there were different lines associated with different minoritized populations. So there was an LGBTQ plus line that led to LGBTQ plus trained and affirmed counselors, but that was defunded in July 2025, unfortunately. Um, I won't go into that very heated debate there. But it's still, that's not to say that LGBTQ plus folks cannot call the lifeline. Do call the lifeline. Just know that that specific line is no longer working. Also, in terms of educating yourself, remember, an ally is learning. Um, Continually learn about trends going on in terms of what's going on in the US, different regions, legislation, policies. I have two national resources here that are great places to get your data from. One I've used in some of my slides there is the University of California, Los Angeles School of Law, Williams Institute. They're more on the academic side of things, which I think is great. And then we have MAP, or the Movement Advancement Project, which is more on legislation policies, on democratic trends. But these are both think tanks that conduct rigorous independent research on SOGI data, or sexual orientation and gender identity data, and law and public policy. So those are great websites to bookmark in your browser to always go back and see, hey, what's going on? What's the legal climate regarding LGBTQ plus topics? Now, for some local resources, we have a few. So, one is the Liam Foundation. That's the Rockford area's first LGBTQ plus resource center. Um, it opened up its doors in March 2020. That was literally a week after shutdown um, was enacted. But I am proud and privileged to say that I have been a founding board member of the group, and I'm currently serving as board president. I will share, I'm not sure how this works, but I'll email Warren this PowerPoint later. Not sure if he can send it out to folks, but he'll have it. So there's, of course, some hyperlinks there that you can click on. The Liam Foundation is located in Midtown in Rockford, so off of Fifth Avenue near Ernie's Pub. And it is a brick and mortar place, we have a whole bunch of monthly support and social groups and also other resources. Of course, we also have NAMI, National Alliance, excuse me, on Mental Illness. This is a national organization that has local affiliates. Here we have Northern Illinois as an affiliate. So it is the largest grassroots resource for mental health, education, support, and advocacy. Click on their social media. Always awesome things to help you for yourself or for loved ones. And then we also have PFLAG, which is also a national organization, but with local chapters. So Rockford has a local chapter. I believe it was established in 2017. And this is a great group for LGBTQ plus people, but it's also meant to be a resource for those who love them. So family members, friends, those who are supporting them. This is a great group to check into. They meet the first Tuesday of every month at the Liam Foundation Center. Um, for the Liam Foundation monthly groups and for PFLAG's monthly meetings, no need to make an appointment, just stop on by. All right. So that is enough of me talking. Now is for some Q&A, and if you don't have any questions, I have some reflection questions that you can ponder. So what new information did you learn from this presentation about issues impacting LGBTQ plus individuals? I gave some allyship strategies. Do you have any additional strategies that you've used that have been impactful that you want to share with the group? A third reflection question. What are some ways that we as a community or you in your own individual space of your work, in your community, at your home, how can we create more affirming environments in those different places? So I'll pause here, and if Warren has questions from the Q&A, he can feel free to chime in too.
Well, thank you, first of all, Lynn. Amazing presentation, so informative. Um, I think people were so busy listening, they didn't type in any questions, but I want to invite people to go ahead and put in questions, or I think you can raise your hand using the reaction buttons, and I can activate your microphone if you like. As you can see, we've had one of our volunteers locally join us here in our office, and it's just an amazing conversation. Um, it's interesting to me that um, it's controversial. It's also kind of sad that
Yes,
it's controversial
yes.
because we're basically just talking about people being who they are, being free to be who they are. And it's supposed, I know that people want to take things back to the way they used to be, but it used to be, I think, that people had to hide who they, how they felt. And that's where the expression being in the closet came from, right?
Mhm. Yeah. And I see Alba's raised their hand, but
I
yeah,
see that.
I agree too. It's whichever way you want to slice it, whichever minoritized group you want to discuss here, LGBTQ plus, but it's all a desire to be recognized and be wholly human, I think is at the core of this.
Mhm.
So I agree. It is sad that it's debatable or controversial that humans wish to be recognized as humans, right?
And actually, I'm not the co-host, but if you want to make me co-host, then I probably could activate some of
Ooh,
these functions. But if you want to go ahead and
done.
let her um, speak, okay, I'm gonna. I don't know what Elba went, but I'm gonna allow Deb to speak right now. Go ahead, Deb. You'll have to unmute though.
Yeah. My church uh has a diversity team, and every year we focus on a certain marginalized community. And this year, excuse me, we are sorry, we are focusing on um the LGBTQ community. And we had a person who is a member of our church, and he is part of CASA. He came and he spoke to us about all these problems that these kids are having, and being taken out of their homes by DCFS because they were experiencing abuse from families who didn't understand.
Mm,
Um, they were talking about possibly doing a support group
mm.
for these kids, but I'm wondering, does the Liam Foundation already meet that need in our community?
Yeah, thank you for your question, Deborah. And that is heartbreaking. And I'm not familiar with your church. Are you in Rockford or the Rockford
Yes,
area?
we are Christ United Methodist
Yes,
Church.
ma'am. Okay.
Mhm.
So we do have a number of support groups depending on who is seeking the support. So like I know we have a um, diversity youth group. So that for us is 13 to 19 years old. We also have a new middle school age group. And that's just starting to get off the ground. So for younger age folks.
Mhm.
And we also have, and if it's a family, of course, like family members, parents, caretakers can
Mhm.
come to those too.
Okay.
But we also have P flag, which is meant for the LGBTQ plus person plus their family. So
Mhm.
it all depends on who is seeking that support. But we those are a few groups that we have going. And if you go to the Liam Foundation website and go to um, where is it? I guess I can share my screen later. If you go to events, it will show you the monthly events, and you'll see like which group meets when.
Okay.
Yeah, thank
Yes,
you for
as a matter of
bringing that
fact,
up.
I wanted to also mention that there are different NAMI affiliates that have LGBTQ support groups
Mm,
that I'm familiar with. Again, if you go to the NAMI website, just
Mhm.
nami.org, and search, I will try and find one specifically. Oh, one other thing that you mentioned, Lynn, was whether or not we can send out copies of your presentation. Yes, if you send me the slides, I'll be happy to share those with anyone that requests it.
thank you.
Hmm. Good question. Um, and thank you for making me co-host. We forgot to do that earlier. And let's see, we had Elba. Elba, would you like to ask your, well, go ahead and unmute and make your comment, Elba. I think I said that right. There we go.
Can you hear me? Hi.
Yes,
Yes.
we can.
I don't have a question. A lot of this was very interesting information, new information to me, the terminology, and you think you know a lot of this, and then when you get presentations like this, you find out that you're way behind on this. Um, so I appreciate you doing this presentation. Um, In those
that you,
sites that you mentioned, is there some place where you can refer other people that are not very familiar with a lot of this that you can refer them to? I teach a class, a family class, and I would like to be able to refer people to a particular site where they can learn more about the LGBTQ community.
Sure. Um, I would be, and thank you, Elba. And you're not late to it. It's never too late to learn. So I'm glad you found it useful, the information useful. There are a number of websites. I'll take a look into it, kind of like an LGBT 101 type of thing, like basic information, and
Yes.
about gender identity, pronouns, some basic things that you can refer out. I'm gonna type that down because I will email that to Warren along with the presentation. So link.
and Lynn, if I may support you on that, this presentation I think is very educational, and this recording will be on our YouTube page. Um, so if you go into YouTube and just search for NAMI Northern Illinois, you'll get to our channel, and uh, this recording will be there probably
Warren,
tomorrow.
Warren, can I ask that when you send us the slides and the information that she's going to share with us, can you also put the link into that email about the YouTube's
The
video?
recording,
Yeah, of the
absolutely
recording.
great idea. That's a very good idea. I will do that.
Okay, thank you.
Hmm.
Thanks,
All
Alba.
right, let's see.
I see that Mary dropped in the Q&A. Thank you
Hmm.
so much for this presentation. What strengths and obstacles have you seen in working with homeless LGBTQIA plus in the Rockford community? Is there any partnerships with RPS 205 currently? Um, and that's so tough, right? Because like we saw in the stats, and it's applicable here in Rockford, a disproportionate amount of young people who are homeless here are a part of the community. I, this is something that I know a little bit about, but not so much. I know that Phyllis Galisath, co-founder and executive director of the Liam Foundation, works directly with clients. I know that a majority of her clients are adults, not so much um, minors. Um, and it is tough. I do not think there's any partnerships with RPS 205 right now. I think that this would be um, something worth exploring. I know it's tough working with minors as opposed to with um, adults, right? In terms of the individual's agency and their rights. Um, so I would say, I mean, for me, and not so much like K to 12 youth, but I would say with homeless LGBTQ plus folks in general, there it's very hard to find um, even a homeless shelter that is respectful. I've heard a lot of anecdotes of going to different shelters and um, not being recognized, feeling humiliated, especially transgender clients, and they prefer being out in the streets or, in one case, back in prison rather than staying at that shelter. Um, so it's tough. It's tough for all housing insecure people, but especially tough for LGBT people and especially tough for trans people in particular. I don't, so those are some things I'm seeing. Again, the resources are there, but they are not connecting well and effectively to the people who need it. That's my observation.
Wow, that also, I don't know if I really clearly identified my role here at NAMI Northern Illinois. I'm the program and outreach coordinator, and that gives me the benefit of being able to create programs or at least suggest
Mhm.
um, new partnerships and alliances. Mary, I believe you work or are connected to RPS 205. Um, And one of the things that NAMI Northern Illinois has been increasingly trying to accomplish is working with youth programs. Uh, Generally, when I started a couple of years ago, all our programs were 18 years old and up. Last year, we got some grants to start working in younger grades, and we want to start more and more with youth. But as a grassroots organization, a lot of what we do is limited by the number of volunteers we have. So thankfully, we have people who really want to get involved. And if people want to get involved and help, please contact me. I should just change my email address to Warren, the name on the screen to Warren at NAMINorthernIllinois.org. We depend on our volunteers, and I would love to create new programs to work in different areas. And I would like to reach out to you, Mary. I've got your question written down. I hope that we can work together on creating something. I'm going to actually unmute Mary's microphone. Okay, Mary, what would you like to say? I mean, do you have a
Can you
comment,
guys hear
Mary?
me okay?
Yes, go
Okay,
ahead, Mary.
sorry about that. I was just
No?
wanting to clarify. So currently my role is with the city of Rockford. But I have previously worked with the RPS 205 school district in the families and transitions department. And so in that role, working with homeless or unhoused youth or youth who are, couch surfing and whatnot. So I just wanted to mention that I definitely would be interested in having conversations with whomever was interested in having those conversations regarding this. And thank you so much for doing this presentation, number one, and then also giving opportunity to ask questions and identify needs. So that's all I kind of wanted to say. But yes, Warren, definitely we can connect.
Thank you for making that clarification, Mary. Actually, we have a project that we are going to be relaunching to work through barbershops, and it's called the Barbershop Project. And I'm going to invite, we actually have an organization or a planning type meeting tomorrow morning. So I'll send you an invitation to that, and hopefully we can get your participation, your ideas as a part of that. So thank you so much. All right, we have other questions, I think. Actually, Deb raised her hand again. Actually, Lynn, why don't you, would you like to answer one of the other questions in the
Sure. Let me see here.
Q&A?
Sorry, folks who are seeing.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going
Okay,
to,
I see here. So in the LEA monthly meeting, for those who are distanced geographically, are they still be able to join via online platform? That's a good question. I know that, so there's a lot of monthly meetups. So there's the social ones, which I've highlighted, like for youth. We also have Dungeons and Dragons meetup group. Those are more like in center. But we do have a monthly virtual meeting. This is more of like staying on top of what the Liam Foundation is doing. I host those meetings. It's kind of like a check-in for volunteers. Here's what's going on. Here's where we need volunteer help. Those are all virtual. That's unfortunately the only one that's available virtually now. All the other ones are in person. If you're interested in the monthly meeting that I just described, if you go to the Liam Foundation website, click events, I think it'll bring you to the calendar. It's the second Tuesday of the month. That's when our monthly meetings are, and you don't need to RSVP. You can just click on it and join the meeting. So that's one that you can join.
Mhm. And Deb, you've got your hand raised again. Would would you like to make another comment?
I just am curious if she knows of any specific providers that work with youth specifically. I think I know one maybe, but
So when you say providers,
Uh,
are you talking about healthcare providers, mental health providers?
like therapists or
Mhm.
counselors.
Mhm. So what I would recommend is this. Let me see if I can stop my share. Please hold.
Yeah, you have. That's good.
Okay, I am going to share something else. So short question to your answer, Deb, is yes. But let me show you. I keep on saying, go to Liam Foundation, go to Liam Foundation. Let me show it to you instead.
Good.
Yeah, maybe that's what I should do.
Okay, here we are. All right, so to get to Liam Foundation, go to the liamfoundation.org.
Mhm.
And before I get to the business directory, that's where I was heading to. But here's the list of events
Hold on.
for June.
Mhm.
Shush. Um, and so, for instance, the second Tuesday of the month, we have our community and volunteer monthly meeting, which is online. So there's that. But I want to show the business directory to talk about providers that are explicitly LGBTQ plus affirming. The Liam Foundation has this really cool resource called the Rainbow Guide. This is a way of showing that certain businesses are explicitly LGBTQ plus affirming or LGBTQ plus
Mhm.
owned. Um, so there is, and if anyone here on this call has an LGBTQ plus business, or not business, but affirming business,
Mhm.
please do click on here and fill out the Rainbow Guide application so that you can be included on this list. So there's a number of um, areas here. Let me go down. So we have arts, entertainment, community nonprofit, counseling and therapy.
Oh my.
Yep. So we have a whole host of folks here. Now, I know that you mentioned specifically for youth. I'm not too clear on which businesses cater towards youth and which don't, but this is
Mhm.
an excellent starting point.
Start like, yeah, it is. Oh, thank you so much.
Yes. And other things too. Education training,
Mhm.
events, hospitality, faith and spirituality. So I know, I think Deb, you mentioned your church.
Mhm.
Your church wants to be added onto here too. That's a possibility. We have three churches here, um, and then other establishments too. A whole list, and it's growing.
Mm. Yeah, wow. Oh,
Yes.
this is so cool.
I'm glad. So, yeah, and this is the point of making sure that, folks who are looking and want to feel safe
Mhm.
in whatever services they're looking for, this is a great starting point.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wow. I hope that answered uh, the question that was um, open, that one about the online meetings. Did you
Yes.
address that one, you think? What?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, we're running out of time. I can't believe how quickly this hour went by, but I have to say tell you how grateful I am. Lynn, this has been exactly what I think we needed. As I mentioned, we're going to have this recording posted, and if anyone has any more questions, they can feel free to send them to me. I forgot to change my email, put it up there, but it's just Warren at NamiNorthernIllinois.org. Um, Lynn, I don't know if your contact information was in that presentation.
I will put it in there. I'll add it in and then I'll send it to you.
Terrific. All right, everyone. This has been, I think, one of the best leading the conversations we've had so far. Everybody, please stay with us. Check in to our NAMI Northern Illinois calendar on our website, NAMINorthernIllinois.org. And we've got all kinds of exciting things coming up, um, and we'll make more. So, Lynn, I'm looking forward to working with you more in the future.
Awesome. Thank you, Warren. Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Bye. Thank you.